Welcome to the Sant Satsang podcast, a production of Spiritual Awakening Radio. My name is James Bean. Today, rising above the shallowness and illusion is the theme. You'll hear mystic verses from Rumi, the Nag Hammadi Library, Kirpal Singh, Ajaib Singh, Shams of Tabriz, Paltu Sahib, and some other sources. I begin with something on the humorous side, actually. A mystic poem of Sant Paltu Sahib, one of the classic Sants of India, one of the classic saints of India. A bit on the humorous side, titled False Prophets. True saints are not easy to find. False ones abound. In fact, in this world of falsehood, there are fewer disciples than there are false gurus. Paltu points out here the folly of looking upon every pretender to holiness as a master. However, without a true Sant Guru, one cannot attain eternal bliss. Says Paltu Sahib, if every householder were a king, whom should we call a subject? And if everyone in the house were a ruler, who would dispense justice? If everyone gave himself the airs of a lord, who would work to load the carts? And if every donkey claimed to plow a field, who would maintain bullocks? If an ass could gallop, who would care for an Arabian horse? If a dip in a well could bring salvation, who would go to the Ganges? If a touch of glass could transform iron into gold, who would search for the philosopher's stone? If everyone became a man of wealth, who then would beg for alms? O Paltu, to find a saint is rare, though pretenders to sainthood are many. If every householder were a king, whom then should we call a subject, says Paltu Sahib. This is also on the humorous side of things. Some verses from Shams of Tabriz, Rumi's spiritual master. Two Gnostics were proudly debating over the secrets of mysticism and the rank of Gnostics. One was saying, the man who is sitting on that donkey is God to me. Another said, his donkey is God to me. The truth is that most mystics are drowned in fatalism, so getting involved in their words is a veil which deprives one of attaining the real path. The real path is another way. When you hear or read words about Gnosticism, you become drunk. It is that passion that has moved you, for that passion is the light of that veil. There are 70,000 veils of light before reaching the exalted God. Now you are submerged in passion. So how can you discuss the radiance of the true light? Even if you do, all of it will just be the passion. How can anyone compare this passion with the radiance of God's light? Do not be satisfied only with your spiritual teacher's nice words, nice actions, nice character, and beautiful face, for there is something beyond all these. Seek that, says Shams of Tabriz. Since we've heard from Shams of Tabriz, let's hear from his famous disciple Rumi. Attachments bind us to the world and prevent us from seeing the truth. Says Rumi, when you die, you perceive the world of the soul. When you return to life, you know how to live. Now, I'm just going to pause here and comment on this verse as well as the next verse and then read the whole thing. Here, Rumi is referring to dying while living, or death before dying, which is what meditation is, a kind of dress rehearsal for the afterlife. A taste of heaven now, a glimpse of the divine light and the sound current in the here and now for the living. A kind of dress rehearsal, a peek, a glimpse, an inkling of the kingdom of the heavens. When you die, you perceive the world of the soul. When you return to life, you know how to live. Rumi says, whoever dies and comes back again, like Idris, teaches about heavenly realms and knows of the unseen. Pausing again to comment, here he is referring to Idris, the Islamic name for the prophet Enoch and the writings, the teachings of Enoch. I have an earlier podcast on the 3 books of Enoch and the ascension of the soul. It's been at YouTube for a while, and I believe I will upload it to the podcast world shortly, so that anyone listening to this program will very soon be able to listen to that earlier series on Enoch and the ascension of the soul through the heavens, which of course is being referred to directly here by Rumi. Whoever dies and comes back again, like Idris, teaches about heavenly realms and knows of the unseen. Says Rumi, come, tell us by which path you left the world, and by which hidden way you came back again. It's the path by which all souls, town after town, fly at night, and why cages are empty of birds at night. When a bird's feet are tied, it cannot fly very far. Endlessly circling, it cannot reach the sky, and remains without faith. If its ties are cut by dying, it flies up and away. It will see the truth and the secret of everything. Be silent. Wings are found in the world of silence. Don't bang the drum of speech, for talk is an empty drum. A ghazal of Rumi. On meditation, so that the bird of the soul may fly, may ascend through the skies. This passage comes from Bar Hebraeus, one of the great Syriac mystics. Just before the Sufis were the Syriac mystics of Mesopotamia, a great school of spirituality that existed between the 4th and 8th centuries. I've become a fan and collector of the writings of the Syriac mystics. Bar Hebraeus. After its initial workings, grace changes its activities in the soul. It purifies and sanctifies it and makes it apt for the sight of things spiritual and for the receiving of revelations. In the first place, it causes insight into created beings to shine out in the mind. Then the intellect will be brought to the state of silence, where it is free from the distraction of thoughts and becomes engrossed in the Creator alone. The initiated will meditate day and night upon the Most High with such insight that while he is awake, he will seem to be asleep, and when he is asleep, he will be thought to be awake. What a fascinating sentence. The initiated will meditate day and night upon the Most High with such insight that while he is awake, he will seem to be asleep, and when he is asleep, he will be thought to be awake, says Bar Hebraeus. That passage from Bar Hebraeus reminds me of something from the Bhagavad Gita. For the yogi, night is day, and day is night, inversion of day and night. The Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2, verse 69 describes an enigmatic reversal of day and night in the life of the spiritual practitioner, in the life of a yogi. That which is day to the many is night to the sage. That which is night to the many is day to the sage. In ordinary life, the five senses in man seek to alleviate their thirst by participating in social life. In such cases, the waking consciousness is the day, i.e. the place of activity, while the inner worlds are dark like the night. In the case of a yogi, the situation becomes inverted when the doorways to the subtle worlds are opened, because then the inner worlds burn brightly and are full of activity, i.e. the day, while the waking state seems dull and boring, i.e. the night. For the practitioner of Sant, following the spiritual practice of Surat Shabad Yoga, inner light and sound meditation, the focus is not an organization, a temple, or outward structure, and the politics that surround it, that go on within it. But the focus is meditation practice, going within the true temple of the human body. The following is on silence by Sant Kirpal Singh. Learn to sit still and be mentally still, and the silence thus generated will be more vocal than words spoken and written, and you will have an instantaneous solution not only to your personal problems, but to the problems of others as well. This is the greatest secret of success. First, one has to withdraw into the silence of the soul before he begins to hear the five strains of music. The sensory current is to be withdrawn at the seat of the soul behind the eyebrows, the third eye center. The journey onward begins from this stage, the seventh in the order from below. When the soul rises above the six chakras or ganglions in the pind or physical body and starts toward Sahasdal Kanwal, the 1,000-petaled lotus, the seventh stage, she catches the first of the five strains of the divine music and proceeds further. There is no Nam in the lower six chakras. These, in fact, are the grave from which we have to rise above and come to the point from where the grand trunk road of spirituality begins. At the seventh stage, you begin to hear the five strains of divine music when you remove the tent of the soul from the graveyard of the body, comprising the lower six chakras. From here, heavenly music takes charge of the soul, and pulls it up from stage to stage until the final consummation with Satpurush or Satnam takes place. A reading from The Way of the Saints, Sant Mat, collected short writings of Kirpal Singh. Says Rumi, a wondrous sound comes from the sky every moment. That sound cannot be heard except by someone who has risen within. This is a verse I found in the book of Allogenes from the Nag Hammadi library, one of the Gnostic texts found in Egypt. The term Allogenes, or the name Allogenes, is, when translated into English, stranger or foreigner, as in a stranger in a strange land, a foreigner in a strange place, the soul during this life here in the world of the five senses. This is from the book of Allogenes. There was within me a stillness of silence, and I heard the blessedness whereby I knew my true self. This next reading comes from In the Palace of Love, featuring the writings of Santji and other recent masters. Here he is quoting Guru Nanak, "With your own hands, accomplish your work. Do not postpone the work of today till tomorrow. Don't procrastinate." Baba Sawan Singh Ji also used to say, when the Master has given you initiation, you also have some responsibilities. It is your responsibility to come to the eye center. When you come to the eye center, you will find your Master is waiting for you there, and he will perform his duty well. But it is your responsibility to vacate the 9 openings and come to the eye center. So here Guru Nanak Ji says you have to do your work yourself. That is why masters always say that our work is to reach the eye center. Our work is to rise above our body and reach the 10th door. Once we are there, then the master's duty begins. As I said earlier, the master never becomes lazy in doing his work. Before you reach there, he is always there to help you. But we also have certain responsibilities to attend to. And it is our job to rise above the body and come to the eye center, the third eye. Thus, it is only in meditation, the experience of going within, reaching the third eye center and rising above, can we rise above the shallowness and illusion of this world, of this life, and the shallowness of the world of religion and spiritual paths as well, going from theory to practice, from illusion to truth, from darkness to light, from deafening silence to divine sound. The way of Sant Mat, for the most part, is focused on meditating at home, cultivating the practice of satsang at home each day. By satsang, this is referring to studying the teachings of the masters, one's living master or recent master, initiating guru, and all the great saints and mystics of the past. So, listen to a podcast, watch a video, participate in some Zoom remote spiritual retreat happening, grab a book and read a couple of paragraphs from that book. Do this every day before meditating. It will help you get in the spirit of meditation practice. Watch or listen to something from one of the masters, or grab one of the books of the masters and read a couple of paragraphs. Then put the book down. Put the book down and do your spiritual practice. That is what is meant by having the custom of daily satsang at home. And that's what we do in Sant Mat, a daily satsang at home. Read something from one of the masters and then put down the book and meditate. Thanks for joining me today for the Sant Mat Satsang podcast. My email address is james@spiritualawakeningradio.com. Visit my website, spiritualawakeningradio.com, for more listener resources, links, and blogs, and the online e-library of Sant Mat and other spiritual texts. Thanks for joining me. Tune in again soon for another Sant Mat Satsang podcast, a production of Spiritual Awakening Radio.